am Nikita Acharya and welcome to Gurukul E-School. First of all, thank you so much for all the love and support that you showed in my first video. Your comments and feedback are extremely important for me. It is what keeps us going, striving for better content and for better delivery. So please keep showing your love just like that. Now, in the previous video, we talked about the basics of physical world. We discussed the basic questions like what is science, what is physics, some important topics in physics like basic perceptions in physics, and we discussed about two main things, that is the fundamental forces in nature, 4 of them, and the conservation laws. Now today we are going to start with a new chapter.
Units and measurements. Now, whenever someone tells you have to learn this topic or study that chapter, naturally the first question that comes to our mind is why? Why should I study it? Is it because it is academically important or is there some other significance to it? You see, units and measurement is something that is not indigenous to physics. It is not even indigenous to science. It is something that you use in almost all spheres of life, everywhere. For example, imagine carrying out a chemical experiment without the proper knowledge of the amount of reactants that you're taking. Not getting the results is the least of your worries because you might end up blowing the whole laboratory. Or, for example, imagine going to the grocery store and asking for 2000 grams of sugar instead of 2 kilograms because you do not know how to convert between the two of them. Embarrassing, right? So, in order to avoid such situations in life, it is very necessary that we study this chapter and we understand it thoroughly before moving on to any complex topic. Now, measurement in itself is a comparative quantity. You cannot measure something without comparing it to another. For example, you might say that 5 seconds have passed. But you are able to say it only because you know how much is 1 second. And so you compare the amount of time that has passed with respect to 1 second and you say that 5 seconds have passed. So measurement is basically the process of assigning a number or an attribute according to a set of rules. Why a set of rules? Because if 1 second is not the same for you and me, then it will be very difficult to analyze how much time truly has passed, right? So naturally by now you might have understood that there are two parts to measuring any physical quantity, a numerical value and a unit. 5 kg, 10 kilometer and so on. Now numerical value is just a number. The important part is unit. So today's discussion will be centered around unit. Unit is basically an internationally accepted reference standard. Internationally accepted because people all over the world have the necessity to carry out measurements, not just you and me. And reference standard because, like I said, measuring something is basically just comparing it. So you need to have a reference standard, right, for comparison. And this should be internationally accepted by people all over the world so as to carry out a perfect measurement without any ambiguity. Now these units that you use for measuring a particular physical quantity can be of two types. They can be either fundamental or base units or they can be derived units. Let's see how this works. For example, let's say you want to measure the speed of a car. Now to do that, you have to first set the time limit and then you have to measure the distance the car travels in that particular time window. Alternatively, what you can do is you can fix the distance and see how much time the car is taking to cover that distance. Once you have distance and time, you can put it in the formula speed is equal to distance by time and you can get your answer. Now here to measure speed, you have taken the help of distance and time. But to measure either distance or time, you have no other physical quantities. So you have to measure them directly using some method or the other. You know that distance has the unit of meter or kilometer and time can be measured in seconds, minutes or hours. So the unit of speed will be distance by time, that is meter per second or kilometer per hour and so on. So here, since meter, kilometer, second, hour, these are measured directly, they are known as base or fundamental units. And since speed has the unit of meter per second, it is a derived unit which is derived from the unit of basic fundamental quantities, distance and time. And together they form what is known as the system of units. Now, man has been carrying out measurements since pretty long, right? And back then there was no way of communicating between people over large distances. So over the time, there were various different system of units that had been developed. And 3 of those units are still significant in today's world, that is the CGS, FPS and the MKS systems. And these 3 systems are named after the units that they carry for the 3 main physical quantities or fundamental quantities, length, mass and time. So CGS will stand for centimeter, gram, second. FPS will stand for foot, pound, second. And MKS for meter, kilogram and second. In today's world, however, what we use is known as the Internationally Accepted System of Units, or the SI units. And they have 7 base of fundamental physical quantities or units. 3 of them you are already familiar with: length, mass and time. They have the units of meter, kilogram and second. The fourth one is called electric current, and it has the unit of ampere. Then comes thermodynamic temperature measured in Kelvin. It is called thermodynamic because it is absolute temperature, and absolute temperature of any body is always measured in Kelvin. Next is the amount of substance measured in moles. This unit is basically a conversion between mass and the number of elements, because you see, when you go to small atomic or molecular scales, the number of atoms or molecules that make up a particular system is actually very large. So you need some method to convert between this number and the amount or mass of the substance. And the last one is luminous intensity, which is measured in the terms of candela. Now, for each of these physical quantities, there are some basic definitions for the fundamental units. How much is 1 second, or how much is 1 ampere? At the first glance, you might think that it is difficult to remember such big numbers or understand the tough concepts that are associated with these definitions. But it is important that we at least get some idea about these definitions. So I will be trying to make you understand these definitions in as simple manner as possible. Let's start with the first one, meter. Now we know that distance equals speed into time, and the unit of distance is meter. Speed is meter per second and time is second. So to find the definition of meter, I set the distance to 1 meter, but I am still left with 2 variables, speed and time, and everything in the universe has a variable speed except light. The speed of light is always constant, and it is denoted by a small c. So if I set the speed, I can easily find the time. So time will come out to be 1 divided by 299,792,458 seconds. And so we can define 1 meter as the length of path travelled by light in vacuum during a time interval of 1 divided by 299,792,458 of a second. The next unit is kilogram. Now for kilogram, we do not have any such formula. So what we do is we take an international prototype, and we say that the amount of mass in that particular thing, which we consider as the international prototype, equals 1 kilogram. The prototype that we take is actually a cylinder of platinum iridium alloy. The reason for taking this element is because it does not show much change in mass over time, and so we don't have to worry about the changing amount of matter in 1 kg. Now the unit for time is the next one, that is second. Earlier, the second was defined with respect to the rotation of Earth. We know that Earth rotates on its own axis, and that one rotation equals 1 day, and 1 day has 24 hours, 1 hour has 60 minutes, and that each minute has 60 seconds. So 1 day will have 24 into 60 into 60, that is 86,400 seconds. By using simple unitary method, if 1 day has 86,400 seconds, then 1 second equals 1 divided by 86,400 parts of a day. And so we define second as 1 divided by 86,400 parts of a mean solar day. However, we had to consider a mean solar day. Why? Because you know that for every year there is actually 1/4 of a day that is extra, and that is why we have a leap year in every 4 years to compensate for this 1/4 of a day. So basically this meant that the definition of time was not accurate. That is why we moved to a more accurate definition of second, and that we did using the concept of hyperfine transition in cesium-133 atom, or in simpler words, using the concept of frequency. Now you know that atom has a nucleus, right? And the protons and neutrons are inside the nucleus, and electrons revolve around the nucleus. How they revolve, that is shown in the animation here. The interesting thing here is that the path that you see for each electron is actually different, because each electron has different energy. Now in one path only 2 electrons can be there, but if you give, or if one electron, let's say, gets some extra energy, what will it do? It will move to a different path. Which path? A path that will have energy which is equal to its previous energy plus the extra energy. But that path is not the original path of the electron. The electron will want to return to its original path. So what will it do? It will give away the extra energy and it will come down to its own path. Now this extra energy that is given away is in the form of radiation, and this movement of electron from one path to another, or otherwise known as orbits, is termed as transition. So what we say is that in cesium-133 atom, 133 basically stands for mass number, meaning that it has 133 total number of protons and neutrons in it. So in cesium-133 atom, in 1 second, 9.19 into 10 to the power 9 times radiation is produced. Or you can define 1 second as the time that elapses during 9,192,631,770 cycles of radiation produced by the transition between two hyperfine levels of ground state cesium-133 atom. The next topic in our series is ampere. Consider I have two thin long wires and I place them some distance apart, let's say R, and I let some current flow in them in the same direction. Now what will happen is the two wires will start attracting each other. How or why? These questions will be answered in the subsequent chapters. For now we need to know that there is a force with which the wires are being pulled towards one another, and this force is given by F by delta L, or force per unit length, is equal to mu naught I1 I2 by 2 pi r. F by delta L is the force per unit length, which means that if you are taking unit of length as meter, then force per unit length will be force per 1 meter of the wire. Mu naught stands for permeability of the medium. It is actually a property of a particular medium where both the wires are kept, because if I keep the wires in air or if I keep them in water, the force that is acting will change. So we need mu naught. I1 and I2 are the current that are flowing through wires 1 and 2, and R is the distance between them. Now mu naught is constant for every medium, and since we are doing this in vacuum, mu naught here will be 4 pi into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per ampere square, which is its unit. And let's say I take current as 1 ampere, because that is what I have to find and define here. So I place both of them 1 meter apart, so R will be 1 meter. So putting these values in the equation, you will find that F by delta L, or force per unit length, is 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter. So how do I define 1 ampere? The ampere is the constant current which, if maintained in two straight parallel conductors, that is the wires, of infinite length, which is the reason we are taking force per unit length, of negligible cross section, which means the wires are thin, and placed 1 meter apart in vacuum, would produce between these conductors a force equal to 2 into 10 to the power minus 7 Newton per meter of length. Next we will study Kelvin, which is the unit for measurement of absolute temperature. Now definition of Kelvin is very simple if you can understand what is triple point of water. You know that water exists in 3 states: solid as ice, liquid water, and then water vapor. So if we draw a graph between pressure of water and temperature, then at some point for a particular pressure and temperature combination, all 3 of these states of water will coexist. And this point is known as the triple point of water. And it is actually possible. Here, take a look. Can you see the liquid boiling and turning into ice at the same time? Look closely towards the left side. You will see that there is also some gas present there. So for water at triple point, from the previous graph, you saw that the temperature is 0.01 degrees Celsius. Now you know that 0 degrees Celsius is 273.15 Kelvin. So 0.01 degrees Celsius will be 273.16 Kelvin. So basically if you want to find 1 Kelvin, that will be 1 divided by 273.16 parts of the thermodynamic temperature of water at the triple point, and that is how we define Kelvin. Now the sixth fundamental unit is mole. To measure the amount of substance, we need mole, and again we need some reference to measure this. So here we take the reference of carbon atom. Why carbon? There are actually many reasons, but the simplest one is it is easier to weigh a solid compared to a gas. Otherwise we can take nitrogen also, it is plenty available. Second reason is that carbon 12 has 6 protons and 6 neutrons, so there is some kind of symmetry which makes it easier to find the weight of 1 proton or 1 neutron, and then we equate all of this in a scenario where we get to find how a mole actually is formed. So we define 1 mole as the number of atoms that are present in 12 grams of carbon 12. Easy. Number of atoms present in 12 grams of carbon 12. And we relate it to other substances also, because mole can be found in terms of molecules also. So we say that the mole is the amount of substance of a system which contains as many elementary entities as there are atoms in 0.012 kg or 12 grams of carbon 12. Why do we say entities? Because it can be molecules and not just atoms. For example, 1 mole of NaCl. And so we move on to the last one now, that is candela, which is used to measure luminous intensity. Now, you know there are different types of radiations, right? There is UV radiation, there is X-ray, radio wave, microwave, and also there is visible light, which is actually visible to our eyes in the form of different colors. So there is a whole study or a whole topic, you can say, that deals with the measurement of visible light perceived by the human eye, and this is known as photometry. And in this photometry, let's say you take a source of light and you try to measure the power that is emitted by this light, but in terms of wavelength, in a particular direction, in a particular range of solid angle. Solid angle means angle that is measured in 3 dimensions. And then you measure the quantity, this is known as luminous intensity. And this measurement is based on a function called as luminous function, and it deals with the sensitivity of human eye. So if we standardize some values, like for example, whatever source we are taking, we set that as a monochromatic source, which means that the source will emit light of only one frequency, for example, red source or a blue light, then that will have a particular frequency. And then we find the intensity of this source, and then we can define candela. How? We define candela as the luminous intensity in a given direction of a source that emits monochromatic radiation of frequency 540 into 10 to the power 12 hertz and has a radiant intensity in the same direction of 1 by 683 watt per steradian. Watt per steradian is actually intensity per unit solid angle. The unit of solid angle is steradian. Now let's take a look at whatever we have learned today. We talked about first why we need measurements and units. Then we learned the difference between fundamental or base units and the derived units. Then we learned about the 3 system of units, CGS, FPS and CAN system. Then we learned also about the SI system and how there are 7 fundamental quantities in it. What are they? Length in meter, mass in kg, time in second, current in amperes, thermodynamic temperature in Kelvin, amount of substance in mole, and luminous intensity in candela. And lastly, we try to understand how to define each of these units. So that's all for today. In the next video, we will learn about ways to measure the 3 most important physical quantities, that is distance, mass and time. Until then, have a good day.